What if we are not the only technological civilization on Earth? Do not rush to suspect a person next to you. They are most likely human. I am talking about some advanced civilization that existed millions of years before us, and then mysteriously disappeared. It does sound quite bold, but it is not impossible. So the question is, if they really existed, is it still possible for us to find traces of them now? To be honest, we are always obsessed with finding alien life, but we have almost ignored another possibility. A civilization more intelligent than humans that existed earlier. It is possible that a civilization developed on Earth, even before the dinosaurs appeared. And now, there might still be some clues, quietly buried somewhere on Earth. This is the mystery that the Silurian Hypothesis attempts to unravel. The name comes from a sci-fi show, an alien race in Doctor Who, Sierra Leoneans, but the theory in reality is a bit different from what you see on TV. Scientists do not directly ask if such a prehistoric civilization ever existed. Instead, they ask a more complex question. If it really did exist, could we today still find any traces of it? Meaning that the tools we have now, can they really detect a civilization from hundreds of millions of years ago? Actually, human civilization itself is a very good example. Telegraph, starting from the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, electric light bulb, we built machines and factories. Transistor technology has been advancing rapidly, but what came with it? A huge impact on Earth's climate and ecology. If this trend continues, it is not entirely impossible for humanity to eventually disappear completely. A doomsday scenario. Of course, we are just illustrating a theoretical hypothesis here. What if humans suddenly disappeared from Earth? At first, everything might seem continue as usual, but slowly, small problems will accumulate into a great disaster. Refineries and nuclear power plants can still run for a while, but just one glitch, one burst pipe, could trigger massive explosions, fires, and pollution. The sky will be torn apart by smoke. The earth will be consumed by flames. In a few more years, the ground will begin to crack. Green shoots emerge. After several seasons, weeds turn into bushes. Bushes turn into forests, and eventually, the entire city is swallowed by green. Bridges collapse, buildings crumble, and the skyline slowly disintegrates. Even plastic, which we once thought would last forever, and eventually be slowly consumed by the earth. Over hundreds of millions of years, our society will be completely erased. Fossil evidence will slowly disappear, and with the constant movement and erosion of tectonic plates, even our proud supercities will vanish completely in a geological blink of an eye, as if they never existed. Now imagine, a brand new intelligent civilization is born on Earth. Their scientists try to prove that humans once existed. But I can tell you, they will face an extremely difficult challenge. Because if no man-made objects are left behind, they can only look for these geological fingerprints hidden in the strata. In other words, it is to determine what happened on Earth through abnormal changes in the composition of rocks or minerals. To determine what happened on Earth, they might go and test for some unusual carbon isotope spike. But even so, these clues may not be clear. As for why, I will keep you in suspense for now. We will talk about it later. Now, please consider a core question. If there truly was some ancient technological civilization, would they also, like us, leave these indelible geological traces? We might not find statues or ruins, let alone the remains of skyscrapers, because these would have long since weathered away without a trace over millions of years. But if that civilization really existed, they would have had basic survival needs, just like modern humans, require a lot of energy. And these activities will inevitably leave similar geological footprints on Earth, such as a sharp increase in atmospheric carbon content, abrupt climate change, rising sea levels, and so on. If we really find these unusual anomalies in ancient strata, it could very well mean, before us, there was indeed a non-human, advanced intelligent civilization on Earth. Sounds pretty simple, right? But this is where the Silurian Hypothesis really comes into play. As early as 2018, two scientists decided to seriously test this idea. Physicist Adam Frank and climate model expert Gavin Schmidt. They just wanted to answer one key question. If an advanced civilization had ever existed on Earth, would we be able to find any traces of it today? The answer is probably not. To find definitive evidence of an ancient civilization, it is incredibly difficult. And there are two main reasons for this. First, it is hard to distinguish whether those geological fingerprints were left by human activity or caused by natural changes. For example, if the temperature suddenly rose during a certain period, was that caused by industry, or was it a natural change of the Earth itself? Our current climate change is actually very similar to some super warming events in Earth's history. One of them happened about 55 million years ago. At that time, global temperatures soared by about 8 degrees Celsius, but that superwarming was caused by natural factors, such as intense crustal movement and frequent volcanic eruptions. So the question is, if similar things happened in earlier periods, then is there a tiny possibility that it was caused by ancient civilizations? But even if so, it would be almost impossible to distinguish. The second reason is even more obvious. The longer a civilization exists, the less evidence they leave behind. Sounds counterintuitive, but it is true, because to last for 1,000,000 years, a civilization must be sustainable. The less damage they do to their planet, the fewer traces they leave. For example, if a civilization, it mainly relies on wind and solar power generation, its impact on the environment will be far less than a civilization that relies on fossil fuels, and the geological fingerprints we can find will naturally be even fewer. So this forms an argument. The civilization most likely to live the longest, but are the hardest for later generations to discover. So the conclusion is that finding conclusive evidence of an ancient technological civilization is basically impossible. But that does not mean they never existed. The problem is, we currently do not have enough tools to thoroughly investigate Earth's history from hundreds of millions of years ago. So perhaps we should keep an open mind. You might imagine that if there really was an ancient civilization, they would be creatures like humans, right? With 2 legs, 2 hands, walking around on land. But some scientists have proposed another possibility. Are we looking in the wrong place? What if the civilization is not made of land-dwelling humanoids, but of creatures from the sea, like cephalopods, octopuses, cuttlefish, squid? They have complex nervous systems and surprisingly intelligent behaviors. They can change their skin color and patterns in seconds. They can even convey emotions through their changes, like, I am angry now. They can also visually hypnotize their prey. So the question is it possible that these marine creatures are the ones we have been looking for, that ancient intelligent life? Of course, let us first consider a simpler hypothesis. Perhaps these species learned to live in groups, forming some kind of early society, just like early humans. They might have also modified their environment, for example, by cultivating food on the seabed or hunting certain species until those prey went extinct. But the problem is, they never entered the industrial age, let alone the space age. No starships. Without these, they would not be a technological civilization. So, they can't be the answer to the Silurian hypothesis. And that is precisely why this whole idea has a special, teasing nickname in the scientific community, the most interesting but likely wrong hypothesis. But in the end, this theory still poses a profound question. Millions of years from now, what will humanity leave behind on Earth?